Now we're going to write decimals on a number line. So on this number line we have 0.3, 0.4 and 0.5 labelled, but we have 10 lines between 0.3 and 0.4. Now we know that between tenths we have hundredths. 10 hundredths make 1/10. So these smaller lines must show hundredths. Now the easiest thing to do is to write 0.3 as 0.30 and do the same, putting a 0 on the end of 0.4 and 0.5. We haven't changed the decimal because remember, a 0 on the end of a decimal doesn't change the number. But now, if we want to find values on our number line, they're easier to work out. So, what number is this line pointing to? Well, it's past 0.3 and it's 2 lines in, so that's 0.32. Here we have 0.39 because it's past 0.3 and it's 9 lines across. Here we have 0.42 because it's past 0.4 and 2 lines across. So what do we have here? We have 0.48. It's past 0.4 and it's 8 lines across. So notice 0.48 is less than 0.5. Now on this number line we have 1.6, 1.7 and 1.8. Again, what I like to do is to write zeros on the end of our decimals. So then, if we need to find a specific value, it's easier for us to work out. This line is pointing to 1.63 because we're 3 lines after 1.6. Here we have 1.68, then 1.74 because we're 4 lines after 1.7, and here we have 1.77. Now this number line is slightly different. We have 0 and our tenths and 1 as our labelled values. Again, we can put zeros on the end, and if we've got a whole number, we can write 0.00 on the end. So we can do that with 0 and 1. So what number is the arrow pointing to? Well, between 0.1 and 0.2, we have 0.15. That's right in the middle, and it makes sense if you think that 15 is right in the middle of 10 and 20. So where is the arrow pointing to now? Well, this is 0.45. That's right in the middle of 0.4 and 0.5. Now we have 0.65, and here the arrow is pointing right in the middle of 0.9 and 1, so that's 0.95, and that makes sense because 95 is right in the middle of 90 and 100. Now for this number line, we have 0, 1 and 2, so we have whole numbers labelled, and this 0.5 tells us that each of these lines must be 1/10, because 0.5 is 5 lines after 0. Again, we can put zeros on the end of decimals without changing them, and if we have whole numbers, we can always write 0.00 on the end, because that will help us work out the values that we need. So which number is the arrow pointing to here? That's 0.45, because remember, each of these lines is 1/10, and so this line here is 0.4, we have 0.5 labelled, so right in the middle we have 0.45. Here we have 0.95, that's right in the middle of 0.9 and 1 whole. What number is the arrow pointing to now? Well, that's 1.35, because this line here is 1.3, the line after the arrow is 1.4, and the arrow is right in the middle so that's 1.35. And where is the arrow pointing to now? Well, we have 0 and 0.1, so right in the middle we have 0.05. That's right in the middle of 0 and 0.1 because that's equivalent to 5 hundredths. And if we double 5 hundredths, we have 10 hundredths, and that would be 1/10. So now onto our last number line. Again, it's easier to find values if we write zeros on the end of our decimals, and if we have whole numbers, we can always write 0.00 on the end, so that we have 2 digits after the decimal point, just like we have with all of our other values. So where is the arrow pointing to here? Well, we can see that the arrow is now not right in the middle. The arrow is closer to 0.2 than 0.1. So I would estimate that the arrow is pointing to 0.18, or perhaps 0.17 or 0.19, but definitely more than 0.15. So where is the arrow now? It's closer to 0.4 than 0.5, so I would estimate it's at 0.43 or perhaps 0.42. Here, the arrow is pointing to 0.58 because it's closer to 0.6 than to 0.5. And finally here, we can see the arrow is almost in the middle of 0.9 and 1, but perhaps just slightly closer to 1, so I would estimate 0.96. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that was helpful. If you're a teacher or a parent, then please subscribe or go to keystage2maths.com to download resources for this lesson and many more. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.